you. I hope many of you were just over watching the live that I just did on CBN's YouTube channel. If you have not found CBN's YouTube channel, you should, because it's one of the few places where you can get live up-to-the-minute news without having a subscription to anything or paying for a cable bill or anything like that. I am happy to continue to do those lives over there because it's it's fun, but I think it's also necessary. We've had a ton of people who have contacted me and said, we really like those lives, please keep doing them. So, okay, we'll keep doing them. And I am going to be traveling quite a bit this year. I'm making plans for the first, month or so. Normally, take a guess how long I go between when I buy a plane ticket and when I fly that plane ticket. Normally, what's my average, would you say? I think it's actually gotten longer recently, but how long do you think I go between buying a ticket and flying that ticket? Let's take a poll and see what you guys think. Take some guesses there. I'm going to, let's see if I can find the live over here. I'm going to go here. Live. Okay. So, folks, if you haven't saved or, subscribed to the YouTube channel, please do so. That's real helpful, obviously. If you're on, and it's amazing, I go and watch the analytics of my YouTube lives, and like a large number of you actually don't subscribe, which, why? If you keep coming back to watch these things, why don't you subscribe? You should. Anyway, hope you will. It's helpful. It gets a lot more people seeing our content if you just go hit that subscribe button down there. If you're watching on a television, you can't do that. I understand. No problem. Some of the article that I'm going to be talking about here today, I put up on my my locals page, chuckholton.locals.com. My brain is kind of slowing down, I think. And so you can go read it for yourself over there. But I want to point out this article because it's in the Guardian newspaper from the UK, but it is mind-boggling. There are so many things about this article that just make you go like, what? We need to discuss it. But before I get to that, I just want to preface everything I'm about to talk about by saying that we just saw the biggest year for illegal mass migration into the United States that we have ever seen. A record beyond all records. I started reporting on illegal migration in like 2004 and have been reporting on it ever since. And so I've spent a lot of time down on the border, and all along the way, there's a pipeline of people making their way north through Mexico into the United States. Back in the day, in 2004, a lot of those people were Mexicans that were coming across looking for jobs, and it was still a problem. The drugs were still a problem coming across, but most of the people coming across were just coming, they weren't making asylum claims. They were just coming across to work. The asylum thing really kicked in under the Obama administration, and what you saw was just scads of people realizing all of a sudden, oh my gosh, we can have everything that they have in America. All we have to do is just go there. If your country pays $5 a day for labor, and the United States, you can make $15 an hour for labor, why wouldn't you do that? And so they just started coming in mass. It started with, Western Hemisphere countries. It started from the Northern Triangle of, like El Salvador and Guatemala and Nicaragua, and then, Mexico, of course, and then it started moving further south, and then you started seeing a lot of people from Cuba coming, and then people from Haiti coming, and We have. They say that you'll still see the number if you go out and look. You'll still see people reporting that there are 12 million illegal immigrants in the United States. That was the same number they were using 10, 15 years ago. The numbers now are over 30 million. We're talking about 1/10 of the United States is here illegally. 1/10 of the people in the United States are here illegally. That's more than like 16 states put together. Okay, we're talking about bigger than many of the largest cities in America put together. The number of people we're talking about 30% of the people in the United States right now speak Spanish as a first language. So if you don't speak Spanish, maybe you should brush up on your Spanish because you're going to need it before long wherever you live, even if you live in Wisconsin. Okay? Oh, come on. Well, it looks like my audio died there for a minute. Okay. Let's see here. When will your major report on the illegal immigration? You said sometime this January. Yeah, I'm going to be doing a lot on that. I'm going to, like I said, spend some time in the Darien Gap this next week. And then I'm going to, oh goodness. I'm going to Cartagena, which is where there are a lot of Venezuelan and Haitian migrants moving through. And then I'm going back to the Darien Gap again with a group of people. I can't talk a lot about that trip just yet because it's going to be a big trip. And once I'm able to talk about it, you'll know why. You'll be amazed. But it's going to be, we're going to go deep into the Darien Gap and we're going to report on the number of people coming through there. So as I was saying, okay, you guys can hear me now. I guess Connie would be coming up here if you couldn't hear me. But what I was saying is that the number of people coming across has changed. The makeup of people coming across has changed in recent years. It went from being people that were just, seasonal workers to becoming asylum seekers and economic migrants. Virtually everybody who comes across now is an economic migrant. There is no actual asylum seekers coming across the southern border. Mary says, where's the Darien Gap? The Darien Gap is the border between Colombia and Panama. And it's a gigantic jungle with a swamp the size of Delaware and bugs the size of your face. And it's very, very extreme topography, very difficult to move through. There are no roads in the Darien Gap. And there's no way to drive through there. You have to walk if you're going to cross the Darien Gap. And when I started reporting on the migration crisis in the Darien Gap, there were like 37,000 people, 36,000 people that came through that year. It was like 2007. And this year, we're talking about 500,000 people coming through the Darien Gap. That is overwhelming Panama. It's overwhelming all the countries between Panama and the United States. And of course, it's overwhelming the United States. But it's going to get worse because the United States and many countries in Latin America are conspiring together to increase the flow of migrants who are able to come through the Darien Gap or to skip it altogether. So they're building a camp out in the Darien that will house 15,000 people. And that camp is going to be meant to make it easier and safer for people to get through. And anything you do that makes it easier and safer means that more people will come. More children will be dragged through the jungle for days upon end with no food and no water, facing bugs and beasts and criminals from the cartel. Many more women will be raped. Many more people will die of drowning or exposure out there in the gap. And there's going to be a big toll of human misery because of the increase. They're saying that this year, So last year was a record beyond all records coming through the Darien Gap, 500,000 people. That makes up just a fraction of the 5 million or so that actually entered the United States illegally. But now we're going to see, they're saying probably 1 million people coming through the Darien Gap this year. And so the numbers are only going to get worse. More people are going to come from Venezuela. More people are going to come from Cuba. More people are going to come from Haiti and from around the world. Now, this article out of The Guardian that I put up on my website over there is what I wanted to really talk about because, oh my goodness. It says that this is a report now about a plane that was detained in France that was on its way to Nicaragua. And the plane had 303 people from India on the plane. So these 303 Indians were stopped in France because there was a complaint lodged against this charter aircraft. This was not a commercial aircraft. I mean, you know, one you could just buy a plane ticket on. This was a charter airplane, privately chartered. And it was chartered bound for, guess where? Not the United States, not Panama, not Colombia. It was chartered for Nicaragua. Now, if you look at your map, Nicaragua is north of the Darien Gap. That means that people that go to Nicaragua will not have to traverse that difficult and dangerous jungle. And so it's a much easier trip for them to get to the United States because they can fly into Nicaragua. These are people that would not be allowed to fly into Mexico, for example, and certainly would not be allowed to fly into the United States. Now, one other thing that you will find about many of the people on this plane is that they likely do not have passports or any other documentation. Now, I know that you can't go to the airport and get on an airplane without a passport, especially one that's going overseas. But a charter airplane, they put people on there that don't have any kind of paperwork at all, that are essentially stateless persons, and they fly them to the United States, and then we're kind of stuck with them. Now, this was a flight that left the United Arab Emirates on December 21st. It had 303 passengers of Indian nationality on board, and it flew to Paris on its way to Nicaragua. Now, why was it going to Nicaragua? Well, there have been, of the 500,000 people that came through the Darien Gap over the last year, many of those people were not from anywhere in the Western Hemisphere. They were from places like Somalia, places like India, places like China, Indonesia, all over Africa, Ghana, Senegal, places like that. And they were coming to the United States, but they couldn't go directly there. And the only place that they were allowed to fly into without a visa was Ecuador. And Ecuador, as you know, if you look at a map, is south of the Darien Gap. And so from Ecuador, they had to take a bus up into Colombia and then take a bus to the Colombian border with Panama, or as close as they could get, and then start walking because there is no road, as I said, through the Darien Gap. And after 3 to 6 days of walking, they made it through into Panama. And Panama puts them on buses and then sends them to Costa Rica. Costa Rica sends them to Nicaragua. Nicaragua, so on and so forth, all the way up to the United States. Now, one tired mama says, there's a reason for all of this. What is it? The reason is just what I'm saying. These people are not asylum seekers. They're not claiming us. They are going to claim asylum in the United States, but they don't have a valid asylum claim. A valid asylum claim would mean you would have to say that your government is persecuting you, and because you face persecution and death from your own government, then you are going to claim asylum in the United States. The problem with that is, if you're fleeing persecution from your government in Bangladesh, and you go from Bangladesh to the United Arab Emirates, excuse me, well, you're not being persecuted in the United Arab Emirates. You're being persecuted in Bangladesh. So once you get to the United Arab Emirates, you should create an asylum claim in the UAE. See, the way that asylum law works, international asylum law works, is that you have to claim asylum in the first safe country you arrive at after leaving your country of origin. If you're in Haiti and you're saying, I'm being persecuted by the government in Haiti, first of all, that's a lie, because there is no government in Haiti. Haiti is a failed state. But if you want to make the claim that you're being persecuted by your government in Haiti and you go to Guyana to your first stop out of Haiti, well, then you need to make an asylum claim in Guyana. And you're not allowed to say, no, I want to make an asylum claim in the 12th country that I get to in the United States. If you leave Guyana, then you're no longer an asylum seeker. You're an economic migrant. And economic migrants do not have the right to enter illegally into the United States, to cross our border without a visa. You have to get a visa if you're an economic migrant. Now, there's a lot of people who come into the United States for a better life, for economic reasons, and we don't have a problem with that. The United States is not against you coming to our country to look for a better life. The thing is, you've got to get a visa to do it. You've got to do it legally by going to your consulate in your home country or some other country. That's what my daughter-in-law did. She had to go to the consulate for the United States in Armenia, and she had to get a visa to come to the United States. Now, these people, they don't want to do that because they wouldn't qualify. They're not actually being persecuted in wherever they're living. And so they don't get a visa, they throw away their passport, and they just trek to the United States with the help of the United States government, with the help of the governments all along the way. Because these people don't want them, Panama doesn't want them, Costa Rica doesn't want them, Nicaragua doesn't want them. And so it's like a game of hot potato. And when they get to Panama, they put them on a bus, they send them to Costa Rica. Costa Rica puts them on a bus, sends them to Nicaragua. And they just bus them right up to the United States. They are not legal. They do not have a valid claim to enter the United States in any fashion. They can't enter legally and they can't enter illegally. If you're entering illegally, you're illegal, right? But they don't have an asylum claim. If you are Mexican and the Mexican government is persecuting you and is killed part of your family and they're coming after you, you can flee to the United States and you can make a valid asylum claim. You don't have to have a visa. You can present yourself at the port of entry and say, those guys over there are trying to kill me. I need a safe place to go. And the United States cannot turn you away. But under international law, if you're from Guatemala and the Guatemalan government is persecuting you, then you can go to Mexico and make an asylum claim. But you cannot go to the United States and make a legal asylum claim. You just can't do that, not legally. But the United States is choosing to look the other way. The Biden administration is going, these people need a safe place to go, and so we'll let them. But it's not legal, and it's not moral even, okay? Now, this plane that was detained in France was detained because I believe the United States actually filed a complaint against this charter company for bringing a bunch of illegal migrants on their way to the United States. And so they filed a claim in France and claimed that this plane was was trafficking in, people, was human trafficking. And so Paris detained the plane and they did an investigation. And the investigation concluded they're not actually trafficking these people because trafficking implies that they are being forced onto this plane against their will and they're being taken somewhere against their will and forced to travel. These people are not being forced to travel. They all paid money to get on the plane. They're all coming willingly going to the United States. And so there is no valid claim that they're being trafficked. They're just trying to come to the United States illegally, and it's not illegal in France for you to go to the United States illegally, right? So France said, well, we're going to have to let them go. But this article gets even crazier. It gets worse. Take a look at this. The flight. So the Nicaragua is north of the Darien Gap. Again, before now they had to go to Ecuador and then make their way north. And the Darien Gap, as many people, 500,000 people came through there this year, but it still functioned as a kind of deterrent. There were still a lot of people who said, a guy could get hurt going through the Darien Gap. I'm not going to do that. So I'll stay here in Colombia. I'll stay here in Ecuador. I'll stay in Chile. I'll stay in Brazil. I'll stay somewhere else and make a life there and do just fine. Did you know that the income in Chile, for example, is almost as good as it is in the United States in many places? And so they could go to Chile, and many of them did, and they lived there for years, and they made a good living, and they had iPhones, and they have good, nice clothing, and they have a home, and they have a job. No problem. They have health care, they have education for their kids, everything they need. And yet they're coming to the United States now because specifically they can make even more money in the United States. So it's not a matter of being persecuted. It's not a matter of even being poor. It's just a matter of I'm going to where the pay is the best. And so, it'd be like if they told you live in the United States, you can do the same job you do now, just go to Canada and do that job. So if you're a plumber, go be a plumber in Canada, and we'll pay you $1 million a year. Well, why wouldn't you do that? I mean, I wouldn't blame you if you went and got in line and jumped the fence into Canada, but it is greed. Without a doubt, AA, it is greed. And so these people do not have any legitimate reason to come to the United States, but they are being assisted in that. Now, Nicaragua, why would Nicaragua change its laws to allow people to come to Nicaragua on their way to the United States? What does Nicaragua get out of that? Well, nothing really, except for the fact that Daniel Ortega, the president of Nicaragua, is a communist, and he is he's in cahoots with Venezuela and Iran and Cuba and many of our adversaries around the globe. So Daniel Ortega wants to do whatever he can do to harm the United States. And so they just changed the law in Nicaragua to allow people to cross from to change planes in Nicaragua without a visa and go directly to the United States. And that way they don't have to cross to the Darien Gap. And people who have money, who don't want to walk for 6 days through the jungle, why would you want to walk for 6 days through the jungle? People that have money are doing just that. They're coming into they're coming into Nicaragua, and they're going to the United States that way. The people that were on this plane, get this. This is the thing that blows me away about this story. Not that Ortega wants to harm the United States. Of course he does, right? Of course Ortega wants to harm the U.S. He is an enemy of the United States and always has been. You know, Daniel Ortega was the president back in the 1980s. He was the president in Nicaragua during the Sandinista movement, during the all the Contra things and things with Oliver North back in the 1980s and 1990s. And so he's still the president in Nicaragua. Now, there was a time when he wasn't. He left and then he came back to power. But holy cow, this guy wants to hurt the United States, and he knows that uninhibited immigration is one way to do that. So he changed the laws to allow these people in. And all these people from India are now coming to the United States through Nicaragua. But here's the crazy thing. The people on that plane, they didn't just buy a plane ticket, okay? There are tourist companies, there are tourism companies in India and elsewhere who are advertising tourist packages for people that want to emigrate to the United States. So they're saying, for this much money, we will get you to the United States. We'll take care of all the arrangements. We'll take care of all your transportation. We'll take care of all your food, your security, everything, and we'll get you all the way to the U.S. southern border and drop you off, and all you have to do is jump the fence. And People are paying, from China, people are paying $30,000-$40,000 per person for these packages. In many of these packages are put together by cartel tourist agencies in Colombia. And many of the people who own these companies that are doing this are politicians in Colombia that are making bank off of hundreds of thousands of people working their way through Colombia up to the Darien Gap. But those people are not going to be happy with Nicaragua, because now many of the high rollers, the people who can pay, can fly directly into Nicaragua instead of going through the Darien Gap. So we're going to see fewer Chinese, fewer Indians, fewer people that have money coming through the Darien Gap in the coming year, because they're going to just skip it and go right to Nicaragua. The article in The Guardian says that these Indian people that were the 303 Indians that were on this plane coming out of the UAE, guess how much they paid? Between $48,000 and $150,000 to come to the United States. Now, you try to make the case to me that these people are economic migrants. They're just looking for more money. They're just looking for a better way of life. Well, wait a minute. Could you pay $150,000 to go to India? Could you buy a plane ticket for $48,000 to go anywhere on planet Earth? I couldn't, and certainly wouldn't. But these people can. They're paying upwards of $100,000 a person. And who are they paying that to? Somebody is getting very, very wealthy on these trips. And they say that more than 100,000 people came through from India into the United States illegally in the last year. This particular, let's see, it says on 30th October, the government of Haiti enacted a ban on charter flights to Nicaragua, but they did that under pressure from the United States State Department. But in the previous 3 months before October 30th, those charter flights from Haiti going to Nicaragua had transported roughly 30,000 people around the Darien Gap straight to Nicaragua to make it easier and safer for those people to get to the U.S. Now, what kind of people in Haiti can pay $30,000 for a trip to the United States? These are not poor people, folks. These are not, give me your poor, you're desperate, you're yearning to be free, anything like that. No, these are people who are wealthy. This is a brain drain, okay? These are people who have money, and they want their kids to be able to go to American universities with in-state tuition. I've talked to some of them. I know that for a fact. They want their kids to be born in the United States and their grandkids to be born in the United States. They want to start a chain migration for their family and move their whole family to the United States. Because if you're in the United States as an illegal, it's actually better than being in the United States legally. You're a citizen of the United States, let's say, and you go to the hospital, well, you have an accident or you get sick or something like that. You've got to go get, treated at a U.S. hospital. Do you get to just walk away and go, I'm not going to pay my bill today, I'm just going to leave? You don't have to. You don't get to do that. They'll come after you with a collection agency. But if you're an illegal in the United States, where's the collection agency going to go? They got nowhere to look. They got no way to come after you. They can't find you. You don't have any paperwork. And so you can go to the hospital and get treated. They have to treat you. They can't turn you away, right? If it's a life or death thing, the U.S. system has to treat you, but you don't have to pay. And if you don't have to pay, then it's better for you as an illegal migrant than it would be if you're in the United States if you were born here. How about taxes? Do you have to file a tax return if you're an illegal immigrant? Well, theoretically, you're supposed to if you're working in the United States. How many of those guys do you think are actually filing their taxes? Again, what are they going to do? How are they going to come after you if you don't file your taxes? They don't file their taxes. Can you apply for and be granted money, like cash, every month from let's say a state program, a city program, a church program, a federal program like SNAP benefits and things like that. If you're illegal, absolutely. You don't have to be a taxpayer. You don't have to be a citizen to qualify for any of those aid programs for people that are poor. And they know how to game the system. And so they'll apply for programs in multiple states and collect money from multiple states. They'll also get a job working under the table. And if they have a job, they're supposed to stop receiving money from those other programs. But they don't tell them that they're working under the table. And so they're collecting money from their job and they're collecting money from all these programs. They are gaming the system and they're making tens of thousands of dollars doing it. Of your money. This is your money, okay? Look, I have been following this for many, many years. I've been tracked this down. I've spoken with the migrants, and I know I still to this day keep in touch with some of them who are living here in the United States. There's one couple from Cuba. They made $45 a month between the two of them working as school teachers in Cuba. They left Cuba. They came to the United States via the Darien Gap, and they got to the United States. This is probably 7, 8 years ago now. And within 2 months of arriving in the United States, they were signed up for programs in Texas and in Florida and federal programs, and they were receiving about $3,200 a month from all of those programs scot-free. They don't have to do anything for those. And if they got a job, they were supposed to stop receiving those benefits, but they got jobs under the table, didn't tell anybody that they were receiving those benefits, and they were then making about $60,000 a year. Nearly $6,000 a month. This is a couple that was making $45 a month before they left Cuba. And they have now had at least one child in the United States who is an American citizen now. And what do you think? Do you think those people are filing taxes? Do you think those people are, fully involved in supporting the United States? No, they're not. They're just being dishonest and they're laughing. That's right. Lest we forget, they are laughing in our faces. They are gaming the system and they're taking your hard-earned dollars to do it. Now, one other crazy thing about this flight from India. Again, these people reportedly paid between $48,000 and $150,000 to board that airplane. Unbelievable. People are making big money on these chartered airlines to the United States. Now, one last thing. These tour services, they not only provide transportation, security, guide services, food, everything like that, all inclusive, get you right to the U.S. southern border and drop you off, but they also provide help navigating the app that the United States CBP put out, the Customs and Border Protection released an app that you can get on your iPhone, and that app will allow you to get pre-cleared, to make an asylum claim before you arrive at the U.S. southern border. And so if you're in Mexico, there are various places you can go in Mexico, and you fill out this app, and it gives you a date. That date is your asylum hearing date, and then once you get your asylum hearing date, you can go and present yourself at a port of entry in the United States. But the United States government is funding centers around Colombia and in, various different countries, but Colombia and Mexico primarily, where you can go and they will help you fill out the forms and they will get you your appointment and then put you on a plane and fly you to Cleveland or fly you to Des Moines or fly you to Fort Wayne, Indiana, fly you into the heartland of America so you can skip the border altogether. And the United States is assisting migrants along with these cartels in doing this. Now, the reason the United States did this, the Mayorkas gave a big speech when they announced the CBP One app and said, we're doing this because the cartels are making too much money off of these migrants. It's an industry for these cartels, and they're making money on this. And so we're going to put a stop to it by putting out this app where people can make their claim and they don't have to travel all the way to the U.S. southern border and pay off the cartels to get there. Well, what that ended up being was the cartels started taking over the CBP1 app, helping people game that system and selling appointments. So they would go on and make a bunch of appointments for fictitious people. And then when the appointment came up, they would sell it to the highest bidder. And we've seen proof of this in Mexico. People saying, I paid $500 for my appointment. And they're going, wait a minute, it's supposed to be free. You're not supposed to pay. And they're like, well, if I made an appointment, that would be 3 years in the future. And so I don't want to wait that long. And so I paid for an appointment sooner rather than later. It has been, the cartels have only made more money because there are more people coming, and the cartels are gaming the system for the migrants, helping them do it, and taking a cut of apparently up to $150,000 per person. Unbelievable. Absolutely mind-boggling, the stuff that you're seeing here. So you can see these articles by going to my website, chuckholton.com, and you can read it for yourself. Again, if you read between the lines, there's a lot more meat to that article than just what it says there, right? And so I highly encourage you to go to chuckholton.com and do that. And please subscribe while you're over there. And so again, this is absolutely maddening. And these airlines now are the coyotes. But worse than that, it's not just these charter airlines that are the coyotes that are flying people into Nicaragua and helping them get to the United States. Because a smuggler, a coyote, is anybody who assists these illegals in getting to the United States. So you could say the government of Panama is a coyote. They're a smuggler. They're helping people get to the U.S. The governments of all the other countries between Panama and the United States and the government of the United States is the cartel now. They are the smuggler. The government of the United States is taking money, is helping people, facilitating their migration to the United States. And there's one other group of people that is also doing this, and that's the IOM, the International Organization for Migration. Go look at the IOM website. That's in their title. We are the International Organization for Migration, as in to help people migrate. And the IOM gets money from George Soros and gets money from the United States government and other various donors around the world. And they use that money to help people migrate to the United States. They actually give out debit cards across Latin America to these migrants so that they will have money for food and lodging on their journey north as they make their way to the U.S. We've documented that over and over and over again. We're going to an IOM camp in Panama on the 5th, and I'll bring you reports from down there and show it to you. The International Organization for Migration is a pro-migration organization funded by the United States taxpayer and George Soros. Okay? This is absolutely an intentional, not just migration, it's an invasion of the United States. This is an intentional attempt to destroy the current system in the United States, our democratic system of checks and balances. As one pundit said, this is the U.S. government electing itself a new people. And that is what we're seeing. So, folks, it's not exciting. I know that's not fun to talk about, but this is what's happening right now. And we're going to talk about it a lot more in the next couple of weeks because I got a couple of groups I'm taking down there to show them what's happening here. So if you have a question, ask it quickly. Type it in real fast. I'll give you guys about a minute to ask any questions you have. And we will, well, actually, I think there it is. There it goes. Let's see here. The candidate who says they will close the border day one will win. I wish that were true. I hope that is true. Let's just say, as they say in Spanish, ojalá que sí, which means may God make it so. Those coming illegally made it difficult for anyone who wants to be legal. That's right. I myself was stuck in the United States for 6 weeks last year because I was waiting on a new passport. And the reason I had to wait 6 weeks, even though I expedited the passport, is because they took a bunch of the passport agents and moved them over to process asylum claims. And so now it takes 6 weeks or more. If you need a passport and you don't expedite your passport, you're going to wait up to a year to get your passport back. That is, I was like, wait a minute. The United States government forces me to have this stupid piece of paper in order to be able to travel. And they're saying, well, I'm sorry, you're not going to be able to travel for the next 6 weeks. That means I don't get to work for the next 6 weeks, right? And this is all because this is one of the, things that happens when you have all these illegal migrants coming into the United States. People are going to the hospital and unable to be seen because the hospital is flooded with illegal migrants. There are hospitals around the country that are literally shutting down because they can't make a profit, because so many illegal migrants are coming in and using their services and then not paying for them that they can't make a profit and they're having to close. So it's degrading the healthcare in the United States because of these illegal migrants. Again, 10% of the United States population is now here illegally, should not be here. And that is a massive drain on everything about our culture. Does the fast food chains have any involvement in helping illegals? A lot of it's difficult for them to hire illegals to work fast food. Some of them do. One of the illegal families that I followed came from Haiti, walked through the Darien Gap, came to the United States, went to New Jersey, and she works at Newark Airport in the secure area. She's an illegal migrant. She can't legally be in the United States, but she works in the secure part of the airport at Newark Airport, making airplane meals that go on the airplane. I mean, think about that. We're allowing a bunch of illegal migrants, some of whom are Chinese, probably members of the PLA, some of whom are from Somalia, some of whom are probably, they could be jihadi Muslims that have a beef with the United States, and we're letting them work behind the secure fence in international airports, making food for passengers on the airplanes. That blows my mind. And so obviously they're finding ways around the laws for hiring illegals. These illegals can get a social security number. You know that? They don't have to be here legally to get a social security number. They can go get a social security number, and because the government, I believe this government does not care if they're here illegally. They only care that they pay taxes. And so as long as their employer is paying taxes for that person, they don't really care if they're here legally. And they're not enforcing the law that would keep them from being able to work. So if you ever take an Uber, for example, if you ever take an Uber anywhere in the United States, it's a 99% likelihood that guy that's driving you is an illegal migrant, because that's one of the jobs they can get easily. It's probably not his car, but he can drive you as an illegal migrant. And so ask him. If you ever take an Uber, ask the guy where he's from. He'll be from Pakistan or someplace, right? This is the way illegal migration is working, and it's only going to get worse. Why? Because when you feed the ducks, you get more ducks. And the United States government is doing everything it can to feed as many ducks as possible. We're spreading duck feed all over the planet. And so we're going to be overrun with ducks before long. And I'm going to spend a lot of time this year reporting on this from the ground in Panama, in Guatemala, in Nicaragua, in Mexico, in Chiapas State, where these guys are coming across. I'm gonna be bringing you the story on the ground, and so if you want to know what's really happening, keep following. Go to my Hot Zone podcast. Please subscribe right here. Go hit that subscribe button. That'd be very helpful. You support my work by the super chat, super thanks. We really appreciate the income that comes from this, and what that enables me to do is when I go to places where there are people like these girls that we're going to be meeting with in Cartagena next week. These girls wanted to go to the United States, and I talked them out of it. And one of the ways I talked them out of it is, as I said, I will help you get started with a business here in Colombia so that you can support your family. And we did that. And we've been trying to support these girls in different ways as best we can to keep them from going to the United States. See, that is the solution, folks. people don't need to leave their home country to get a better life. They don't need to leave where they live now and go to the United States. That's not the only place on the planet where they can have a better life. They can have a better life. They can actually work in the United States if they learn to work online, right? They can work in the United States by getting a job that's a remote work. There's over 7 million remote work jobs available in the United States right now. And we could keep people from coming to the United States and being a drag on all of our infrastructure by letting them be hired remotely in their home country. And I've done this. I hired several editors, and I can pay, it's a win-win for everybody. The average pay here in our little valley is about $30 a day for a skilled worker. I can hire a video editor for $50 a day, and he's going to be making more money than anybody in his family has ever made. And it'll enable him to get a car and have a house and just support his family and do a great job. You can live okay on $50 a day here without a doubt, right? If I had hired those people in New York, I'd have to pay $600 a day or more, up to $1,000 a day. So I can charge, $400 or $600 a day, and the people that I'm editing this stuff for are going through me, so they're getting a good deal. I'm making some money in the middle, and the guy I'm hiring is getting a great deal. Everybody wins, and he doesn't go to the United States and cause a drain on our U.S. economy. He's actually still paying taxes in the United States through me, right? So it's a win-win-win, and the United States could encourage people, employers in the United States to hire people outside the U.S., and it would help everybody, but they're not doing it. But we're trying to do it, and every dollar that we raise on these podcasts is a dollar that I can use to go help people not come to the United States and take up U.S. taxpayer dollars. So we appreciate everything we get with the super chat, super thanks, and all that, but we also appreciate the supporters that we have over at chuckholton.com. So I hope and pray that you would see your way clear to do that. Americans are the most charitable people group on the planet, bar none, and that has been proven over and over again. By an order of magnitude, Americans are the most charitable people in the world. Somebody's asking, Len says, do you see any revival taking place in some of these countries I'm traveling to? There was a revival that's been taking place in Nicaragua, and Nicaragua has been cracking down on it and has been arresting the pastors that are preaching in these revivals. And I would say that that's probably going to only make the revival go that much bigger because that's the way God works. Do you see any genuine revival taking place? Okay, so that was a question there. Any other questions? Okay. Well, I think that's about it. It's been an hour, or almost an hour. So if there's no other questions, then we're going to just say thank you very much, folks, for watching and for being a part of this. Again, let me just mention, we have this personal protection weekend, a tactical firearms training that we're going to be doing at Maple Fork Lodge in Mount Hope, West Virginia, coming up the second weekend of May. Our friend Tim Miller, who has been on the podcast with me, is going to be leading that training. This guy's a former Secret Service agent. He was a policeman for 16 years, and he was a Reserve Marine Corps Lieutenant Colonel for 24 years. And this guy's one of the most highly trained federal agents on the planet. His resume is a mile long, and he is going to be bringing some people who are even more qualified than he is, that are the best firearms trainers at the Federal Law Enforcement Training Center in Charleston, South Carolina. And they're going to be coming for a long weekend of training. We're going to do medical training, stop the bleed. We're going to do firearms training on the range. We're going to do legal training and lots of great conversations about when to shoot, when not to shoot, and what happens if you shoot, and what should you do after you shoot. And, how do you de-escalate a situation so that you don't have to shoot, and lots of things like that people don't normally talk about on these firearms training weekends. But you're going to get to be a much better shooter. You're going to get to hang out with some of the coolest people on the planet. We're talking about Delta Force operators, stuff like that. And you're going to get some training that is literally second to none. It's literally the best training on the planet. I can say that with total confidence because of the quality of the people that they're bringing in as trainers. And it is, you can go to my webpage, chuckholton.com, and you can see a link to that training there. Please go, and space is limited, very limited. Don't have a lot of space. So they're going to be using lots of cool training there for that. And I highly recommend that you sign up for that. Also, we've laid on one more trip to Armenia, but this trip is a high adventure backpacking trip that is going to go to some of the most unbelievable scenery in the world. I mean, look, it's not being superfluous to say that Armenia has some of the most beautiful scenery on the planet. I've been to almost everywhere on the planet, and I can tell you that the scenery in Armenia rivals anything you'd see in the Dolomites, anything you'd see in Switzerland. It is absolutely fabulous. And we've put together this one last trip because we have 3 trips that are already completely full going to Armenia. You will still get to see some of the history and the culture and sample the food and all that. And they're going to be, this 10-day tour is going to be interspersed with a couple days camping here, and then we'll stay in a night in a hotel, and then a couple days camping, backpacking here, trekking, caving, going into some ancient caves and stuff. It's really going to be cool. And so you can go and sign up for that, again, on my website, chuckholton.com, or just send me an email, hotzoneholton@gmail.com. Send me an email and ask for the link, and we'll send it to you. And I highly recommend that if you know anybody who's an avid outdoorsman, they want to be on this trip, trust me. Again, space is limited, so get your tickets quickly. We're just asking for what am I trying to say? Deposit right now, not the full amount. And so you can come and sign up for that. All right. God bless you all. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you'll come back again soon, and we'll talk to you later.